Who would win in a fight? Alex Jones, Real Raw News, or me? Dead Rabbit Radio. When it comes to crazy conspiracy theories, who has the craziest? Well, before you say those two guys, wait, give me about 20 minutes and see if I can have you on my side. Which, Jason, I hope you're not going crazy. Well, yeah, me too. And then we meet a man who believes he has it all figured out. He's successful in life, has a loving family, and he knows that when you die, you simply cease to exist. But when it's his turn to meet the Grim Reaper, he realizes he was wrong. Dead wrong. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too, and I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a jam-packed episode today, so let's go ahead and get started running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Jonathan. Woohoo, yeah, he's running on in. He's painting us. He's painting us as we're clapping. Now there's a big portrait of all of us clapping. Jonathan is the one who sent over that amazing artwork of me holding a bottle of Robitussin as a bunch of segments of Dead Rabbit Radio play out in the background. Really, really appreciate that. I actually did an interview for another podcast recently. Dr. Kelly Schutz, I believe is how you pronounce your last name. It was a great interview. I'm trying to get the link so I can share it with you guys. I had to take the painting down because one of the rules is no trademarks. And in that painting, it was a video interview. In that painting, there is a bottle of Robitussin, which I've apparently drank all of in this picture, and an Arby's sign in the background. So I had to remove it for the video podcast, but I have it hanging back up now. Jonathan also made a very generous donation recently on the YouTube Super Chat, so I really, really appreciate that. He's a supporter of the show. Appreciate all of it. Jonathan, that is why you are going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, I totally understand. I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Okay, Jonathan, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to toss you trying to come up with some new vehicles. You always use the same ones. I mean, they just become more and more nonsensical as the years go by. Since you're a painter, Jonathan, I'm going to hand you the Easter Bunny easel. You're like, hey, Jason, you're kind of reaching. We can just use the card. No. Here's the Easter Bunny easel. It has nothing to do with Easter. It's almost the complete opposite. There's so many demons in the show. I'm surprised you don't explode when you say the word Easter. I'm going to hand you the Easter Bunny easel. Or, no, I think an easel is just a big triangle. I don't think it moves, right? Fine, we'll just take Jason Jalopy. Let's get on board. I'm trying to do something different. But I personally love the classics. But everyone climb aboard the Jason Jalopy. Jonathan, his paint-stained fingers getting all over the car. Go ahead and fire this bad boy up. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you drive us all the way out to a small town somewhere in the United States. We're walking around this small town USA, and I turn to you and I go, listen, this segment may make you mad. I've actually had this idea in my head for probably 4 years, maybe. And I've always thought about mentioning it on the show, and I haven't because I think it would make a lot of people angry. But I've been thinking about it off and on for 4 years, and honestly, the longer time goes on, the more I feel like it's a valid question. And I want you to be you don't have to agree with me, because honestly, I don't know if I'm right either. This is 100% just a theory, and it may make you mad. And feel free to send me the emails and the comments, but I'm not married to this either. However, it's just a conspiracy theory that's been in my brain for a couple of years now, and I'll be honest, I don't have a lot to back it up. I've really, really tried to find stuff to back it up, but I'm kind of running against the wind. Because if the conspiracy theory is true, there would be no evidence of it, other than our own eyes. And the vibe. The vibe. So maybe you guys can take a little vibe check with me, as the kids say these days. You agree with me, you don't agree with me, it's totally fine. If you're mad at me because I say this, it's totally fine too. You're like, what is this? Is this another Kanye West segment? No. Okay, here we go. The year is 2020, COVID times. We all remember what it was like, unless you were a baby. You remember COVID. And we were all locked in our houses for a couple weeks. I don't remember exactly how long it was. I know there was 2 weeks to stop the spread. But it seemed to go on longer than that, where you were actively discouraged from leaving your house. And in some countries, very famously Australia, I think it was, that was arresting people on the beach. Even though there was no one else on the beach, they weren't supposed to be out there. So like a police helicopter spotted them. Just total overreach. And all of that stuff. You can already feel your blood boiling. You're like, oh, okay, where's he going with this? And trust me, no matter where you are in the COVID issue, this is going to appeal to either party. Either group is both going to be like, what? Here's my conspiracy theory. I'm going to not sugarcoat it. I'm going to come out and say it. I'm not saying I believe this is true, though. After I said I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I do have to put in some caveats. I don't necessarily think this is true, but every year that goes by, I keep going. And someone mentioned it the other day because I had told them in real life about it. And she was like, dude, I still think about what you said 2-3 years ago. And I go, it is really weird, isn't it? This is my conspiracy theory. I wonder if way more people died during COVID than we were ever let on about. And this is where people start to get upset because some people go, no, Jason, you don't understand. The COVID death rate, the 1 million or 2 million people that they listed, that was all inflated. They were counting people who died with COVID, not just people who died of COVID. So the numbers were inflated anyways, and now you're saying they're actually 10 times higher than that? No. And then people who do believe the official COVID numbers and that out of that 1 million or 2 million people who died, they were people who died from COVID, and the only thing that stopped that was widespread vaccination and the masking and the 6 feet apart and all that stuff. People go, no, that's actually really irresponsible for you to say that the media and the government would lie to us about COVID when, because we followed their policies, we only had 1 million or 2 million people die. So both parties hate it when I bring this up. And I bring it up in person from time to time so I know how people react to it. But go with me on this. Let me just kind of lay this out. What if, and I'm not saying I 100% believe this, but what if way more people died than even the most scaremongering numbers would let us imagine? Both sides were completely off. And the government knew it. They knew that America didn't lose 1 million or 2 million people. We lost 10 to 15 million people. And they knew it was bad. But trust me, if you knew, if that was the real number, if it was 10 million, 15 million people died over the course of a couple months in the beginning times of COVID, society would have broke down. You still had people going to work, and you still had, what do they call it, essential workers. And it was really easy to say, I don't think COVID's a big problem, when you look out your window and there's not bodies stacked up on the street. That was always, people, the fear-mongering was, we don't do X, Y, and Z, there's going to be bodies stacked up on the street. But that never came to fruition, or did it? Did way more people die during that time period, and that was the reason why they said stay in your homes. Stay in your homes, be ready for any announcements. It's because it was all, one, to keep people safe, because the death rate was way higher. There would have been no essential workers if COVID had a 1 in 20 death rate, and it didn't matter what age you were. No one would have went to work. Society would have collapsed. Because they go, well, it's mostly the elderly, it's mostly the obese. You can't visit grandma in the hospital. People go, well, I'm 32 and I'm young and I'm fit. I'm not super worried about it. I'll continue being a nurse. And you go, well, Jason, how would you control it? It would be so easy to control the narrative if you restricted the people from moving around. Because people, and Americans specifically, and I love America, I'm not bashing America, but you got to be honest, you got to call a spade a spade. Americans are very, very media dependent, and I know there's different media sources, but all media sources will follow the narrative that is prescribed. And sometimes the narrative is as simple as, my political party's cool and yours sucks. But they'll team up. They all will team up. The government and the media will team up for a common goal. And if the common goal is to keep society moving forward, then you lie. You go, well, Jason, okay, so you say, what if millions of more people died during COVID and our movement was restricted not just to protect our health, but mostly so we weren't out seeing body wagons? Wouldn't the people communicate among each other? Not necessarily. You would, in such a fractured society like it was, it's really easy to shut off stories leaving one city and going to another one. I think this whole idea of walkable cities, have you heard about this? Where a lot of jurisdictions are saying every 5 miles or whatever the designation is, you have a walkable city. So within 5 miles of your home, you would have a bank, you'd have a shopping center, you'd have an entertainment place, you would have this. So you wouldn't actually have to drive your car 30 minutes to go to the movie theater or go to the bank or go to a restaurant. Redesigning cities so they're walkable. And I know it's a big environmental thing. I think a part of that is because you can control information. You wouldn't know what was going on 2 cities east of you. You wouldn't. You would never even journey out that far. Why would you? Everything you need is within 5 miles of your house. And you restructure society like that because the reason why people go, oh, Portland's a terrible place. Like here in Hood River, whenever I'm like, oh, I'm going to go out to Portland, I'm going to go do this, or someone says I'm going to go out to Portland, the first thing people ask is, what area are you going to? And I'll say, well, I'm going to be down by the Moda Center. And they'll go, ugh. Because the area is bad, and everyone knows that the area is bad unless there's a concert going on. And then the police kind of push all the homeless people out for the duration of the concert. But if you never went there, if you had never had a reason, if you had all of your needs met within 5 miles, 2 towns over, 2 walkable cities over, which would only be, 10 miles away from you, could be a hellhole of crime and corruption. But you would never know because you never went there. I really think that that's a point of the walkable city, is to disrupt our ability to travel by just simply removing our need for it. You don't have to put up police barricades if you have no need to go there. And if something went wrong in another part of town, you would never know. You would think everyone around you is living the exact same life you were. And if your government was super corrupt in your town, you would probably go, well, I'm sure it's like this in all the other towns around me. I'm sure all of the mayors are on the take. I'm sure all of the police are a little bit strong-handed when they pull people out of cars, because you would never know to see that. No, every other city around is actually run pretty efficiently, but yours. It's easy to control information. But you go, Jason, okay, so why do you think this? Why do you think this, and do you have any proof? The reason why I think, and again, I'm not saying that I believe this, and I'm about to wrap it up, but the reason why this popped in my head in the first place, that maybe way, way more people died than we were told, is because people are missing from the workforce. Millions of people since COVID are not working. They're gone. And you can look at it in small towns. We have never reached a level of employment that we had pre-COVID, ever. All of our businesses, all of them, do not have enough workers. And that wasn't a problem pre-2019. Every business is understaffed. People are not working. And you can look at that throughout the nation as well. You read these articles and they'll say, an article just came out like 2 weeks ago. 7 million men, specifically men in this case, are no longer in the labor force. They're not working. And the question is, how are they getting money? Because not to be sexist or anything, but I don't know if this is technically sexist. It's very hard for a man to get welfare. Very, very hard. I was down and out in Sacramento, and they straight up rejected me. It's very, very hard. I should say a single man with no kids. It's very hard to get food stamps. It's very hard to get any sort of government assistance. So all these men drop out of the workforce. What are they doing? Were they all independently wealthy pre-2019? Did they all have huge trust funds that they're like, I don't have to work at Kinko's anymore. I'm just going to not work for the next 5 years. And this report I was reading, they go, these 7 million men are permanently out of the workforce. That's how they put it. Permanently. And they said, listen, it's possible 3 million of them have some sort of disability that they were getting payments for and they were working, and then they just decided to stop working and they're making their money through the disability. But the article goes, maybe. That might account for half of them, but where's the rest of them? I get it, dude. Work sucks. If I didn't have to work, I wouldn't work. I would just do this podcast all the time. I work because I need health insurance. But where are they? Where'd they go? And it's not, because I just read this article about 7 million men leaving the workforce. It's women too. People have just disappeared from the economic sector. They're not there anymore. And you can either say, listen, these are people who never had to work in the first place. They were just working as a hobby. They got their main money from somewhere else and they just decided to abandon the workforce at that point and never come back, which really doesn't track because you always see all these articles about how Americans don't have enough money and most Americans don't have more than 3 paychecks for an emergency and things like that. So I don't understand how millions upon millions upon millions of Americans just stopped working unless they're dead. Even if you had 7 million unemployed men, which is a ton, right? I mean, that's huge. Even if half of them were on disability and they just decided to only get disability payments, which I find those numbers a little high as well. But that still is 3 million men who just decided to stop working, never earn another penny in their life, and they're totally fine with it. The only person who can do that is either financially well off in the first place or dead. To permanently drop out of the workforce, you either have to have money to be able to do that, or you've permanently dropped out of living. It's just a conspiracy theory. It's a vibe. Things have changed. Things have changed. There are less workers today than there were just a few years ago. And I don't just mean there's less cooks because they all went to be busboys, or there's less busboys because they all went to college to get their degree. No, they're gone. And you could even step back and go, it may not have even had anything to do with COVID, really. They didn't die of COVID, but something else took them out. They all got abducted by aliens. I don't know. They all just... I thought the other day, I go, you know, it would be really creepy if the rapture happened and millions of people vanished because they got raptured. And that's if you don't know what the rapture is, that's the belief in some sects of Christianity where before the tribulation starts, before the end of the world starts, the believers will be lifted off of the planet Earth. They'll vanish. They'll be in heaven without having to die. I don't know. And again, I have no proof of this. My only proof is that there's just less workers than there are. And we're constantly seeing articles saying, hey, where is everybody? Where did all the workers go? And even these articles, they go, we don't know. We guess they just stopped working. But you don't just stop working unless you don't have to work. So how did a bunch of people right after COVID, where'd they go? I mean, it's weird. It is weird. And again, I expect people are going to get mad. They're going to get mad on both sides. But I know I'll get angry letters saying, no, you're making COVID worse than it actually was, or you're disrespecting people who died of COVID. I'm not really doing either of those, I don't think. Well, the first one, I am, right? I am making it sound like it's worse than a lot of people think it was. Where did they go, though? Who knows? I think it's an interesting conspiracy theory. Jonathan is standing 6 feet away from me. He's like, what? Why is Jonathan standing there? He's like, I'm not adding that to a painting. I'm not going to draw millions of dead bodies standing outside of an Arby's, all trying to apply for a job. I don't even know if I believe it. Like I said, it's just something that could be. And I don't disbelieve it either. I guess that's a good way to put it. I'm not just making stuff up. And now that that's in your head, you may start seeing clues around as well. And start seeing, yeah, you're right. A lot of our businesses are lacking employees. All of the businesses need employee signs. Where did they go? That would be creepy if the rapture happened and we were all left behind. I don't have any transition out of that. Like, that actually would be terrifying. That would be the most terrifying thing you've ever said on this podcast. Jonathan, let's go ahead and toss you the keys of the world. Famous Carpenter Copter, we are leaving behind this small town. Why don't you fly us all the way out to France? Ooh la la! We're headed all the way out to France. Specifically, we're headed to Paris, France. It's June 1st, 1985. We're walking around France and we're looking for a guy named Howard Storm, 38 years old. Now, this guy's a bit of a bigwig. If you haven't heard of him, I'm sure you've heard of Storms, right? You're like, oh, is that where they got their name from this guy? Maybe. I don't know. But not that kind of bigwig. He's a bigwig in academia. He's the professor and the chairman of the art department. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is the most prestigious college around, but he's the professor and chairman of the art department at North Kentucky University. So, I mean, like, that might be a great college. It might not be. But if you went there, you wouldn't know any different because that's the only college you've been to. What's he doing in Paris? Let's find out. I'm looking at my notes. I typed this story up months ago. Every sentence is a new revelation of me. I don't remember most of it. Anyway, so Howard Storm, he's from North Kentucky University. He's visiting Paris. And he's there with his wife. I think they're on vacation or something like that. Maybe he's giving a lecture over there. He's walking around Paris, France, when all of a sudden, he falls to his knees in pain. He's rolling around on the ground, and his wife's like, honey, what's the matter? And he's like, obviously, you dummy, I'm in pain. I know, but what kind of pain, darling? Call a doctor. Get an ambulance over here. I'm dying. And what happened was, a small hole opened up inside of his body right where his stomach meets his intestine. Or intestines. I guess that's always a plural. It's never just intestine. But anyways, he's screaming, he's on the ground. I was like, hey, professor, do you always use plural when you're talking about intestines? He's like, screaming. So anyways, this little hole opened up. Stomach acid was now leaking into his body, and he was slowly digesting himself. That would suck. That'd be a pretty bad way to go. Anyways, they get to the hospital, and the doctor's taking a look at him and goes, listen, we're going to have to open you up and fix this, because you're slowly digesting yourself. By the way, what do you taste like, sir? And he's like, what? The doctor has a cannibalism fetish. Not me. The doctor does. He's like, so, sir, in between your screams of pain and begs of mercy, what do you taste like? Does your stomach acid have any taste buds? No! Fix me! Quit stalling! So anyways, the doctor says, yeah, that's a good idea. Because if I don't fix you within the hour, you're going to die. But we can't help you at this hospital. You're going to have to go to another hospital to do it. Okay. The doctor took 50 minutes to explain that. He's like, oh, and by the way, you only have 10 minutes left now. So Howard Storm and his wife go to the other hospital where they can perform the surgery, but there's no surgeon there at that moment. So he's just screaming in pain. They have to put him in a room. They can't do anything for him. He's screaming in pain. It's been 10 hours that this has all been going on. He's slowly digesting himself. He probably looked down and see he had a little less belly than he had before. Because he's shrinking. I don't think he's like, honey, grab the measuring tape. In between my wails of misery, why don't you measure my belly, see if I'm losing weight? The original Ozempic. Stomach acid. 10 hours, he's just screaming. His wife's freaking out. Save my husband! Save my husband! And the nurse is like, we're trying to get the surgeon here as quick as possible. Howard Storm realizes, I'm just going to die. There's no way out of this. I'm going to die. They told me I was going to die within an hour. We're on hour 10. You know what? I've lived a good life. The last 10 hours have been kind of rough. But before that, I have a wife. I have kids. I have a great job. I had art galleries showing my work. He's an accomplished person. That's actually in his quote. I could read the quote here. This is actually an interesting quote, because again, I typed this up almost a year ago, 6 months ago. Let me read you this quote. He said, quote, I had a wife. I had 2 kids. I had a good job. I had art galleries showing my work. So let's pause there for a second. That all is you could go, wow, he's lived a good life. 50 Cent said, if I die today, I'm happy how my life turned out. There are certain points in your life where you can go, yeah, I actually am happy if I died today. I'm happy how my life turned out. That's an interesting beginning of his sentence there. I had a wife, I had 2 kids, I had a good job, I had a career, I had art galleries showing my work. But let's listen to the rest of this quote. See what you think here. Quote, I had art gallery showing my work. I was winning prizes. I was making money. This is not right. This is not my time to die. Unquote. So that's interesting, right? Then it does kind of shift where it's like, at first it almost seems like, you know what, I got a wife and I got kids and I have all these things and I know I gotta die. But then the second part's like, no, I'm way too valuable to die. Didn't I tell you my art is in galleries? When you read the whole quote, you're kind of like, it kind of reads like, listen, I can't die because I have a wife and 2 kids to take care of. Plus, I've won all these prizes. Plus, I have all this money. Well, the thing with Howard, too, is that he doesn't believe in the afterlife. So the story ends here for Howard. There's nothing after this. There's no void. There's no paradise. There's nothing. Once the signals stop firing in my brain, I cease to exist now and forever. So there's no chapter 2 to Howard's book. He doesn't want to die, but he knows that he's going to die. He knows it. And then everything goes black. Howard wakes up. He's standing next to his hospital bed. Howard is now experiencing what happens after you die. This is a near-death experience story with a lot of twists and turns. But a lot of twists and turns. I do remember a couple of those. But now he's standing up. He lost consciousness in his bed. Now he's standing up and he's looking down at himself still in the hospital bed. And he goes, it wasn't even me in that bed. He goes, it was like looking at a slab of meat. I had no connection to my old body at all. It just looked like meat. If you made a meat man he goes, it looked like me. I wasn't all ground beef. He goes, it looked just like me. I know what I look like, but I imagine a good comparison too would be if you looked at a wax figure of yourself, where you go, wow, that's pretty realistic, but it's still off a bit because it's not you. It's a facsimile. But even someone said, what would you rather have? A wax figure of you or a meat man? Just a big slab of meat that looks like you and you can't eat it. I'm like, oh man, that was my first question. You can't eat it. You just got to look at it. I'd go, well, I have a knife and fork behind my back. I was like, let me choose. Let me choose in private. Let me figure this out. You go in the other room, good sir. And it's interesting too because Howard said, I felt better than I ever had in my life. Not only was the pain of eating myself gone, everything was gone. Every ache and pain, every minor muscle cramp or whatever, every hangnail. This guy was a mess, actually. He's Quasimodo. But anyways, he goes, everything that caused me pain in my life was gone. In an instant, it was gone. He also said it wasn't just that he felt better. And I'll be honest, I didn't pick this story because Jonathan was the pilot. This stuff just kind of happens randomly sometimes. I think this is really appropriate that Jonathan is the pilot. We have so many great artists who have sent in stuff for the show. You guys all rock. This all speaks to you. As an artist, Howard said, all of my senses were magnified. I could see things that I could never have seen before. He said, I could see down to the smallest detail. Picture perfect, all the way down to the smallest detail. I could see 360 degrees around me at all times. And I began to think, imagine the art I can make now. I can see the world without the limitation of human eyeballs. I'm looking at it as a soul. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Look, he sees a bedbug. He can see it perfectly. He sees the bedbug smiling as he's climbing up his old body's anus. He's like, usually I'd be upset that a bedbug was climbing up my butthole, but today I'll let it pass because I'm dead. And I saw that bedbug. He gave me a little smile and a little thumbs up and a wink before he climbed in between my tight sphincter. However, I do have to say that bedbugs probably going to get dissolved by a cascade of stomach acid slowly making its way through my body. I can see things that I never could have seen before. Imagine the art I can make now. Howard looks over and sees his wife sitting there next to this dead body, his dead body. And he says something to her, but she doesn't respond. He can't communicate with his wife anymore. And he tries talking to her and he starts yelling like, hello, hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? just sitting there looking at her husband. She has to know that this guy's dead at this point. You don't have to be a medic to see him go, eh. And he's not screaming in pain anymore. You're like, oh, this guy's probably dead. He's been screaming for 10 hours straight now. He's stopped. Now, this comes a big point in Howard Storm's journey, right? Like, he's dead. Here's his wife. He can't communicate with her. What happens next? He can't stay here. Where is he going to go? And all of this is new to him. And that's when he begins to hear voices outside the hospital room in the hallway. He hears these voices, and he turns and he looks out the hospital room door, and it's a dark hallway. Now, it's really interesting because Howard knows that he's dead. He's obviously looking at his own body. He has all of these abilities that he didn't have before. But at the same time, he doesn't really think he's dead, or thinks he can go back, thinks he can reverse this somehow. A little bit of shock, which is kind of scary, right? To think of a ghost going through shock. And that's usually where ghosts seem to come from. They can't deal with what just happened. There's probably a little bit of terror involved in being separated from your body, especially if you don't think it's even possible in the first place. He hears these voices down the hallway. He sees a group of people down the hallway, and he yells out to them, hey, I need a doctor in here. I need a doctor. And that's when, out of this group, one of the people, can't really make out their facial features. You're like, uh-oh. Where's the tunnel of light, Jason? He can't really make out who these people are. He just sees these people standing in a dark hallway. He goes, I need a doctor. And one of them goes, we know. We know all about you. It's time for you to come with us. And he goes, oh, okay. They obviously know my medical history and know that I need a doctor. They're clearly going to take me to go see a doctor. And he steps out into the hallway, and then he gets this weird sensation, this super weird sensation, that he could not re-enter that hospital room. The hospital room that he had died in, which he's still coming to terms with, that's what actually happened. He cannot go back in there. He said the door was open. I could look in there, and I could see my body, and I could see my wife. But I knew for a fact I could not re-enter that room. The group of people keep saying, come on, man. Come on, let's go. Yo, come on, dude. Let's go. We've been waiting for you. Come on. Come on, man. And they're not super far away. He still really can't make out who they are. It's a dark hallway. And they're like, come on, dude. Come on. And he's like, oh, okay. They're telling me to do that. Right? I got no other options, right? I'm just standing here in a dark hallway. I can't go back in that way. They're probably going to take me to go see a doctor and somehow end this madness, probably put me back in my body or something like that, because clearly this is impossible. When you die, if I was actually 100% dead, I wouldn't exist. There must be something else. So he starts walking towards this group of people, and after just a few steps, he's surrounded by them on all sides, which is the same thing as surrounded, but it sounds more dramatic when you say it that way. They surround him, and then they begin walking as a group down the hallway, and Howard is just kind of getting jostled in between them. He no longer has any control over where he goes. They're moving as a unit, and he's struggling, but he cannot break free. They're walking down this dark hallway, and he says, what happened was, first off, I could no longer perceive the walls or the ceiling. All I knew was there was a floor beneath us, but I couldn't see anything else around us. We continue to walk down this path. And he's still in the mode that, they're taking me somewhere. They're taking him somewhere, all right. But he still thinks, maybe the doctor's office is just left of the infinite void. There's no walls, there's no ceiling. They're walking, and he goes, I swear, we walked for miles. Miles. He goes, we walked so far, and then eventually I started thinking, wait a second. The hospital's not this big. Where are the stairs? How come we haven't reached the stairs yet? Even though he's thinking about this rationally, he's not thinking about it rationally. Where do you think he's headed? Right? As a listener, where do you think he's going? He's still thinking, we must hit the stairs on mile 5. He's still walking. And he starts asking, hey, where are we? Where are we? Shut up! No, I just want to know where we're at. Be quiet! He's walking with this group, and at this point, he's getting nervous. And he's starting to try to figure out where he's at. I mean, they have been walking for 4 miles at this point. I don't know why it took him this long. But again, I think because he thought, there's no such thing as life after death, I must still be alive. But now he's actively going, where are you taking me? I want to know. And they, shut up, move. You'll find out soon enough, Howard Storm. Come on. And they just keep jostling him as he's walking down this path. And he said at this point, there were hundreds of people crowded around me, making me walk this path. With no walls, you could get as many of these people here packed in, and he was just walking with this large group, but he was the guy that they were moving. There was just a lot more movers now. He's trying to get out. He's trying to fight back. Hey, guys, let me go. I want to talk to the hospital ombudsman. This hospital's too big. I need a wheelchair. He's trying to get loose. And they are getting more violent at this point. Because as he's trying to, I don't want to go. I don't know where we're going, but I don't want to go there. Come on, guys, let me go. They start punching him. Ow. Ugh. Oh, they're punching him. They're biting him. They're kicking him. Ugh. He kicked him in the nuts, I'm sure eventually. I'm sure he got his nuts kicked a couple times and made that sound. He's being attacked by these people as they're continuing to move down this path. They're beating him up. They're biting him. They're scratching him. And then one of them reaches out and pulls his eyeballs out of his head. He puts his hands up and he has nothing but bloody sockets. Blood shooting out everywhere. People are still biting him and punching him. And he's just screaming. I mean, I'm sure at a minimum, I'm sure he's making all sorts of horrible noises after your eyeballs get ripped out. But then to make it even worse, he feels people start reaching and tearing at his skin and pulling his guts out. No! He's holding his eyeball sockets with one hand, and the other hand he's trying to hold his guts back in, but it doesn't matter because they just keep pulling out more and more guts. They're still punching him and kicking him, but at that point, I mean, you're like, oh no, that guy gave me a Charlie horse. He punched me so hard in the leg. I don't have guts anymore, and my eyeballs got ripped out. You can kick me in the nuts all day long. I probably won't even feel it. And while this crowd of 100 people are ripping him apart, he starts to think back. He has a flashback, which is kind of, you got to think about something, right? Your eyeballs have been ripped out. You don't want to focus on that. He goes, I'm going to have a flashback to 10 minutes ago when I still had my eyeballs. Oh, those were the days. Anyways, he has flashback. And all of a sudden, he saw his life. And he had to face some things that he didn't really fully admit to himself or really process. He goes, one of them is that I grew up in a really broken family. And I didn't have any control over my mom and my dad. But I have replicated some of that stuff in my current relationship with my wife. And I really regret, as my guts have been pulled out of my body. He goes, my relationship with my kids. I think that it's been very strained relationship with my 2 kids, and I'm the reason for that. I made decisions that I wasn't a great father. I was a father, but not a great father. I was a husband, but not a great husband. And he's regretting these things as he's getting torn to shreds. Because at this point, he knows where he's at. Whether or not you believe in heaven or hell, I think most people have a vague idea of what either is. And even if you didn't believe in hell at all, at this point, you're like, oh, yeah, this is it. This is what they were talking about. This feels like hell. I'm being tortured. I'm all alone. I'm separated from all of my loved ones. And I'm just looking back on my life and all of the bad choices that I made and how I could have been better. And he just is swallowed whole by despair. As he's continued to get stepped on and kicked and his body ripped to pieces, he's just laying there and he's like, well, this is it. This is it. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. And because I was wrong and I wasn't a great person, I'm going to spend the rest of eternity here in hell. But as he's laying there, getting stomped and ripped and bitten, he has a faint childhood memory. he remembers when he was a little kid, they went to Sunday school. And he remembers a little song from that. You guys can sing along if you like. You can turn up the volume, play this at your workplace. Hook it up to the intercom. He's laying there and he goes, there was a song when I was a kid. Stepping on his teeth. They're like, oh, he's about to sing. Everyone, focus on the jaws. Step, step, step. He's laying there and he's thinking, oh, I remember when I was a little kid. Whenever I was scared of a monster in my room. Whenever I was a little guy getting scared, I remembered a song that I heard in Sunday school. It went something like this. He's laying there, he's all getting beat up. Jesus loves me, this I know. You're like, don't have the sound effects. Ah, my eyeballs. For the Bible tells me so. Little ones in him. Wait, what's the lyrics? He's all, hey, demons. Hey, demons, I forgot the lyrics. And what's that? How's that one part go? They're all kicking him even more. What was it? It was, Jesus loves me. I don't remember. Jesus loves me. Yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones in him confide. He is weak, so they are strong? Wait. Jesus is like, hey kids, can you help me out? I'm really weak, but you guys are strong. No, I think it's the other way. Little ones in him confide. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes. Sounds like a song from Oklahoma. I don't know why I'm singing it from like a Western television show. Little ones in him. That doesn't rhyme though. Little ones in him confide. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Yeehaw! He's cracking a whip. Bonanza. Well, then all of a sudden, he got the lyrics right. He got the lyrics right, and he's laying there, and he goes, oh, Jesus. Who else are you going to call? Who else are you going to call for in that moment? You're getting ripped apart by an endless sea of demons. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And he's calling out. He sang the song. He got the lyrics right. Then he's singing, and up in the infinite pitch black sky above hell, there's a little tiny sparkling star. And this star begins to slowly descend towards Howard, who's laying on the ground getting ripped apart. As it gets closer and closer, it becomes brighter and brighter until Howard Storm feels himself swallowed by the light and now is standing in a unending realm of pure white light. And that's when he hears Jesus' voice in his head go, hey, Howard. Crazy, right? You didn't believe any of this stuff. He didn't say that. I'm adding dialogue. But anyways, Jesus is like, did you bring any kids with you? Because I sure am weak. I need them. I'm going to go fight this bully down the block. Jesus goes, this is actually what he said. I'm not going to add dialogue. Why are you adding dialogue for Jesus? Howard knows exactly what Jesus told him. He wrote down the quote. Jesus is in Howard's head. He hears Jesus' voice in his head say, quote, I have some people I want you to meet. And then Jesus explains that these people that Howard are about to meet are going to show you your life, Howard. They're going to show you your life, and you can see how everything played out. So he did. He's introduced to these people, and he saw his life in chronological order. And it was, before he was like, I didn't have a great family life growing up, and I kind of carried that over. But now he's actually looking at everything, and it's a picture-perfect memory of all of these events. And he goes, dude, my dad was abusive to me, physically and emotionally abusive to me, and I never really processed that at all. And he saw himself experiencing that over and over and over again as a kid, and he watched himself become emotionally detached. It was the only way he could survive in that environment. He basically built a shell around him that nobody could get through. It kept him safe, but it helped other people out. Now, I want to read you this quote. I know this is going a little bit long, but I thought this was interesting. Because Howard Storm, we're not done with his story yet, but he's done a ton of interviews about this. He's written about it. He's done a ton of interviews about it. There's tons of quotes. But I thought this was interesting. Because remember, he had died. He went to hell. He didn't think hell existed. Now he's in what you could only presumably think was heaven. And this is his quote. I saw myself striving to become emotionless and feelingless. I don't know if that's a word, but he is a college professor. To become emotionless and feelingless, which was a way for me to protect myself from being hurt. As I became more manipulative and successful, the more the angels and Jesus expressed their disappointment and sadness with me in my life. So he'd watched himself go from being a boy to being a boy. He created this bubble, who became emotionless and then became driven to the point that he was pushing other people away. He was manipulating people. Remember, he said before he died, I have money, I'm not supposed to die. He did have that mentality. And now Jesus and the angels are seeing that shift in his life when he goes, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get ahead. And they're disappointed in him. And he's like, oh, great. I mean, listen, man, it's hard enough to disappoint anybody. But Jesus and the angels, and he goes, it really hurt to disappoint them because here I have these newfound friends. That's how he's describing them. They pulled him from perdition, and he didn't even think they existed, and now they saved his soul, and now they're disappointed in him. And he's like, oh, this sucks. He goes, I have these newfound friends, my big rescuer, best friend I ever had, and I'm a big, huge disappointment, and he should put me back. I don't belong. So that's really kind of touching. He's like, I don't belong here. I do belong in hell. I do belong getting ripped apart. I do belong down there. I do belong getting ripped apart for all of eternity. Look at the horrible decisions I've made in my life. Look at all the horrible stuff I've done. I mean, on a sliding scale, it's not the worst. He doesn't go out and wipe out. He's not like a family annihilator serial killer. He's not some pervert masturbating in the bushes. But he's not a great dad. You're like, wow, Jason. Yeah, most people aren't those two things. But you know what I mean? I'm sure all of us could go, oh, I'm a bad person. But when you stack it up against the real evil in the world, you're probably not, right? You probably haven't killed an entire family yet. Anyway, so he watches this all play out, and he feels super disappointed. He feels super disappointed in himself. He's just like, just put me back in hell. He goes, I don't belong here, guys. I really do not belong here. Just send me back to where I was. Here, I'll even give the demons a head start. He's all trying to rip his own guts out. He's like, no. Oh, he got his eyeballs back. I should tell. He's all talking to Jesus. He's like, hey, before we do this whole review my life thing, would you mind giving me new eyeballs, please? And look at this mess I'm making all over paradise. My intestines are falling out. He's physically whole again, but he's like, yeah, just put me back down there. I don't belong up here. And Jesus goes, hey, listen, bro, we don't make mistakes. We don't make... He's like, well, then how did I end up in hell in the first place? Jesus is like, oh, let me finish. We don't make mistakes up here. They might have gotten to you first. But Jason, quit adding dialogue for this man talking to Jesus. Why is he cracking jokes? I think Jesus would actually be pretty chill. I think he would be cracking jokes. But you're right, he doesn't do that. He does say, you do belong up here. We don't make mistakes, you do belong up here. And Howard, he gets peace in his heart. He goes, well, I guess I do, right? Because you're kind of the guy in charge. If you say I belong up here, I guess I belong up here. Well, okay, I guess this is my new life, my new friends, and we're just going to do this whole eternity thing. And that's when Jesus goes, no, actually, we're not. We're not going to do the whole eternity thing. We're actually sending you back to earth. And Jesus gave him very specific instructions. He goes, we're going to put you back in your body. He goes, but I'm going to tell you something. You need to love the person you're with. And Howard assumes that he means his wife. And he's like, yeah. Okay, I already love my wife, but I'll do that. What's next? And then Jesus said, this is what I'm getting at. You interrupted me. You didn't let me finish, Howard. You didn't let me finish. You got to love the one you're with. And what I mean by that, Jesus said, is that when you are with somebody, it doesn't have to be sexually. We're not talking about you banging your wife or something. Let's say you get in an elevator and you're in the elevator. You love that person. And you show them that love, and you spread that love, and that's going to make them have a good day. Or at the very least, a good elevator, right? And then they will go out and love somebody else. And you'll spread love. He goes, that's all that I want people to do. Go out and spread love. Be good to people. Even people you don't know. Even people who have nothing to offer you, Howard. You have manipulated people. Now I want you to unmanipulate people. Love the one you're with. Love the one you're standing next to. Love the one you say hi to. Spread that love for me. Can you do that for me? Howard goes, I think I got you covered. And then Howard's back in his body, laying in this hospital bed right when the surgeon walks into the room. Now, we're not done with the story. We've got a little bit left to go, and I know this episode is going long, but as a near-death experience story, absolutely fascinating. We have covered on this show quite a few negative near-death experience stories. They're not the most common, but I think we talked about it once before. I don't remember the exact stats, but it's like something like 10% of all near-death experiences involve hell or dark forces in some way or another. It might be a little bit lower than that. It might be like 5 to 7%. But more than you would think, because when you always hear about near-death experiences, it's always the tunnel of light. It's always going to paradise. But we have these stories, and I love covering them because they're absolutely terrifying to me. This story has a bizarre twist ending, though. Because what Howard does, he's done speaking tours, he's done interviews, he's written about this. I think he's written a whole book. My Descent into Death, A Second Chance at Life. What happens to somebody after they go through something like this? He knows the truth now. He knows about life after death. He talked to Jesus. He went to hell. He has this very simple, but in a lot of ways, hard job to spread love randomly. Because most people don't want... Everyone wants to be loved, but we've already built up so many defenses against it that if someone tried spreading love on you in an elevator, you may be like, get out of here, creep. And he's not doing anything sexual. But you know what I mean? A lot of us have hardened our hearts already against this. He had. If he ran into the new version of him in the lobby of some hotel and the old Howard met the new Howard, the old Howard would be like, get out of here, nutbag. What are you talking about? I got money to make. I got classes to teach. I got art to show. And all of them this afternoon. I'm a very busy man. What happens is Howard becomes a zealot after this. Howard begins to incessantly talk about his near-death experience, which obviously would be your topic you'd want to talk about for a while, but he would not stop. And imagine if you had a loved one who changed overnight and adopted a brand new worldview in one night. It would be shocking, to say the least, and depending on you, it might be very off-putting. It was to his wife. His wife didn't believe him. His wife was like, no, I don't think you actually went to hell and met Jesus. I think you were in so much pain and you were so close to dying that your brain went crazy and you imagined all of that stuff. She 100% doesn't believe that any of this happened. And he knows that it did. And he's trying to tell her, and he's telling her about his new life work and what he needs to do. He's going to have to quit his job. He's going to have to become a minister. He has to spread this love. His wife ends up leaving him, which is not the happy ending you would expect from this story. And it gets worse because his kids, who he already had a strained relationship with, they don't want anything to do with him at all. To this day, really. Remember, this happened back in 1985. So we're, like 30 years out, and he's still speaking about this. He's still talking about his journey. So he loses his wife and his kids because of this. His life does not get better after this moment. He knows that he's on this mission to spread love. But the people, remember, those were his regrets. When he was down there, he's like, I should have been a better dad. I should have been a better husband. And then he comes out of this and he thought he was being a better dad and a better husband, but they want nothing to do with him. To this day, it's been 30 years. He's completely lost his family. He said what he needed to do was he needed to make amends with his own father because he saw that. Remember, he watched his life play out. And as an adult, watching it as a kid, he did realize, listen, my dad had some serious problems, real problems. I got to talk to him. I got to talk to Dad. I need to forgive him for what he did to me. And he did. he went to his father and he goes, Dad, I know you did all this horrible stuff to me and you weren't a great dad, but I want to forgive you for that. I want to start fresh with you. And the dad goes, oh, yeah, I wasn't a great dad. I was actually a pretty bad dad when I look back on it. I would like to be your friend as well. So they reconnect. Him and his father end up bonding over getting his eyeballs ripped out in hell. So a happy ending there? No! Because Howard Storm breaks bread with his dad and now they're best buds. But Howard's own mother and his sisters go, that guy's a monster, Howard. That guy was a monster. We all experienced it, and you hated him more than any of us. Why are you hanging out with him? So he has strained the relationship between himself and his own mother and his sisters over all this. They cannot understand what is going through Howard's head. And he tells them, I went to hell and Jesus told me, and they're like, dude, chill with the whole near-death experience thing. That's how you lost your wife and your kids, but he cannot stop talking about it. And I thought this was really interesting. We'll end on this quote, because obviously he is going around and he's still doing these speeches and he's still writing about it and doing podcast interviews and all that stuff, but he lost what he was thinking about in his moments in hell. He lost his own family, his wife and his kids. And he goes, I thought this was an interesting quote. He says, quote, I know that God works stuff out. It doesn't just happen on our time frame. I mean, I like it now, and talking about reconciling with his family, his wife and 2 kids. I mean, I like it now, and it's not happening right now, but it could happen tomorrow. It might take a long time. I don't know. I just know it's all going to work out. Unquote. It's so weird. It's such a weird story. I find this story so odd because you come out of hell. It's a miracle you made it out, right? You get that second chance at life, and you go, first thing I'm going to do is fix the relationship with my family, and he made it worse. He didn't mean to make it worse. It's weird, right? It's a story that has instead of a happy ending, it has a happy middle and a sad ending. And it's not actually over. This saga is still going on. But you know what I mean? He leaves heaven. He's brought back to life. And then his life gets measurably worse. It's so weird. It's such a bizarre story. Everything about it. I'm glad that I found it. I think I stumbled across it randomly just looking for stuff. And first I read the article about the near-death experience. And then as I was doing more digging, I found more information about what happened with him and his family. And listen, man, miracles happen and people do come back to life and there's all sorts of crazy things out there, but none of it's a guarantee that it is all going to work out. We just don't know. I'm a very optimistic person myself. I do believe in a way everything works out, but that may mean that not with his family. You know what I mean? Like, when I say everything works out, that could be a whole host of circumstances where everything worked out, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it back 100%. And he wants his family back. He goes, I know that this is going to work out, but it's just not going to work out today, maybe tomorrow. But I don't know if he's going to get his family back. He's doing good work, right? He's out there, he's ministering to people, he's not worried about money, he's not manipulative, he's not stabbing people in the back. He's not doing all that stuff. I hope he's still creating art. But you know what I mean? He's left behind a job that he really, really coveted and was proud of, so much so that when he was dying, he goes, I can't die. You know how much money I have? To now he is out talking about faith and religion. That's good. Learning what's important in life, but he lost his family because of this. It's so weird. It is not a happy ending. And maybe Howard will never get the happy ending that he thinks he's going to get. He may get a happy ending. I'm sure his life, in a lot of ways, is better than it was before. He has a new best friend, his dad. It's so interesting to come back from the dead. That's a miracle. And then for your life to not be better than it was before. It's not the ending you expect. Fascinating, fascinating story. Thank you so much for letting me tell it. Fascinating stuff, terrifying. Imagine if you did not believe in life after death. Imagine if you always thought it was hokum. It wasn't real. And then you die. And you realize, first thing you realize, wow, there's life after death. I'm still experiencing things. I can see my own body. That's the first thing you realize. But the second thing you realize is, wait a second. Where's the tunnel of light that I've heard about? Where's my relatives that passed before me that are supposed to be here? Why do I hear the voices? Why do I hear the voices of people talking right outside this room? Imagine that terror in that moment. You never even thought it was possible for a soul to exist, let alone a soul outside of a body. But here you are, standing in that dark hallway as a group of people that you've never seen before are motioning. Come here, man. Come here. We got to go. Hurry up. Come here. Come here. Let's go. Come on. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is at DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great day.